For most of my life, I have watched people believe that wealth is created by working harder than everyone else. It sounds logical, it sounds fair, and perhaps that is why so many people accept it without question. But if there is one lesson I learned early in life, it is that the world of money does not always reward effort in the way people expect. Some of the hardest working individuals I have ever met never became wealthy. They woke up before sunrise, worked long hours, sacrificed weekends, and carried responsibilities that would overwhelm most people. Yet, after decades of effort, many of them found themselves in exactly the same place financially. Meanwhile, others seemed to build extraordinary fortunes without working twice as hard. The difference was not intelligence. The difference was not luck alone. The difference was understanding how money behaves. Most people spend their lives earning money. A small percentage spend their lives owning things that produce money. And over time, that difference becomes enormous. When you're young, nobody explains the power of ownership. You're taught how to earn, you're taught how to work, you're taught how to become productive. But very few people are taught how to think like an owner. An employee exchanges time for money. An owner acquires assets that continue producing value long after the work is done. That distinction seems small when you're 20 years old. It becomes life-changing when you're 60. The middle class often believes that a higher salary is the solution to every financial problem. But I have seen people double their income and remain financially stressed because every increase in income was matched by an increase in spending. The bigger house, the nicer car, the luxury vacation, the expensive lifestyle. Every raise disappeared as quickly as it arrived. The problem was never income. The problem was behavior. One of the greatest financial dangers in modern society is lifestyle inflation. The moment people earn more, they spend more. They begin rewarding themselves for success by increasing their expenses. At first, it feels harmless, after all. What is the purpose of earning more money if not to enjoy life? The problem is that every new expense becomes a permanent obligation. The larger mortgage, the higher insurance payments, the car loan, the subscriptions, the private schools, the vacations. Over time, people build a lifestyle that requires them to keep earning at the same level forever. They become trapped by their own success. From the outside, they appear wealthy. Inside, they feel constant pressure. True wealth is not measured by what you spend. It is measured by what you own and what you can keep. The market has taught me many lessons, but perhaps the most important lesson is that time is the greatest asset available to any investor. Most people underestimate the power of compounding because they are impatient. They want results immediately. They want wealth this year. They want financial freedom next year. But wealth rarely works that way. Wealth behaves like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it moves slowly. The growth is almost invisible. Many people become discouraged because they cannot see immediate results. They stop investing, they stop saving, they abandon the process. But those who remain patient eventually reach a point where growth accelerates dramatically. The snowball becomes larger. Momentum takes over. What once seemed impossible begins to appear inevitable. The challenge is that patience is emotionally difficult. Human beings are not naturally designed to think in decades. We want immediate rewards. We want quick feedback. We want proof that our efforts are working. Investing often requires the opposite mindset. It requires the ability to act today for a reward that may not arrive for many years. Most people know what they should do financially. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is discipline. They know they should save. They know they should invest. They know they should avoid unnecessary debt. Yet emotions frequently overpower logic. Fear convinces them to sell. Greed convinces them to speculate. Impatience convinces them to quit. And each emotional decision creates a financial consequence. One thing I have noticed about wealthy people is that they tend to think differently about consumption. They understand that every dollar spent has an opportunity cost. When most people look at a luxury purchase, they see the object. The wealthy often see the future value of the money being spent. They don't simply ask, can I afford this? They ask, what will this money become if I invest it instead? That question changes behavior. $1,000 spent today is not merely $1,000. It is the future value of that money compounded over years or decades. Once you begin thinking this way, spending decisions become very different. You stop seeing money as something that disappears. You begin seeing it as a tool capable of creating more tools. The middle class often falls into the trap of believing that wealth is visible. They assume wealth looks like luxury cars, expensive watches, and enormous houses. But in many cases, real wealth is invisible. Wealth exists in investment accounts. It exists in businesses. It exists in productive assets. The wealthiest people are often not the people who look wealthy. They are the people who quietly accumulate assets year after year. They understand that appearances create admiration, but ownership creates freedom. And freedom is ultimately the goal. Not status, not attention, not validation, freedom. Freedom means being able to make decisions without financial desperation. Freedom means having options. Freedom means not depending entirely on a paycheck to survive. Most people spend their lives chasing higher income when what they truly want is greater freedom. Unfortunately, they confuse the two. Higher income does not automatically create freedom. Higher income combined with intelligent financial behavior creates freedom. Without discipline, even extraordinary income can disappear. History is filled with athletes, entertainers, and business executives who earned millions and still faced financial collapse. Their problem was never earning. Their problem was keeping. Another reason the middle class struggles to become wealthy is because they often misunderstand risk. They believe avoiding all risk is the safest strategy. But avoiding risk entirely can be extremely dangerous. Inflation quietly erodes purchasing power every year. Money sitting idle loses value. Skills become outdated. Entire industries change. The world rewards adaptation. Sometimes the greatest risk is refusing to take any risk at all. Wealthy people understand that intelligent risk-taking is essential. They do not gamble recklessly. They study opportunities carefully. They calculate probabilities. They think long-term, but they are willing to act when others remain frozen by uncertainty. Fear is expensive. I have seen fear destroy more wealth than recessions, inflation, or market crashes combined. During periods of panic, people abandon rational thinking. They focus on short-term pain instead of long-term opportunity. Yet many of the greatest fortunes in history were built during times of uncertainty. When everyone else becomes fearful, opportunities often appear. This does not mean every crisis is an opportunity. It means emotional reactions are rarely profitable. Successful investing requires the ability to remain calm when others are panicking and patient when others are impatient. If there is one message I would leave with anyone trying to build wealth, it is this. Financial success is rarely about making one brilliant decision. It is usually the result of hundreds of small decisions repeated consistently over time. Saving a little more, learning continuously, investing regularly, remaining patient, avoiding unnecessary debt, thinking independently. These actions may seem ordinary, but over decades they produce extraordinary results. Wealth is not built in a day. It is built through habits, and the habits you practice today will determine the financial reality you experience tomorrow. The middle class does not remain middle class because they lack potential. They remain middle class because the world constantly encourages behaviors that prevent wealth from compounding. The moment you begin thinking like an owner instead of a consumer, the entire game changes. And once that happens, your financial future may look very different from your past.